Hi, Democrats. It is Thursday, February 15th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Thursday. And if it's Thursday, we're joined by Representative Mickey Dollens. Hey, Mickey.
Hey, Alicia. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing? You've had 2 full weeks of actual session in addition to the special session. How do you feel?
Well, I'm happy to be here on the show to give everyone a legislative update. As you said, we're in week 2. And we're still working through committees. One of the first steps in the legislative process is to get bills into committee, have debates on those, ask questions, and then if they pass, then they go to the House floor, which we'll see more activity on in the upcoming weeks. We did have a little bit of floor activity this week, but most of our time was spent in committee. Of note, there was a bill that bans ranked choice voting. I had a chance to ask questions and debate on that. We can go into that a little bit more in detail if you'd like. But on a positive side, I had a chance to present one of my bills that passed with unanimous bipartisan support, which is pretty hard to find these days. But thankfully, we can still all agree that seniors 65 and older and adults with disabilities, they could use some relief on their property taxes. And that's what my bill addresses. And I was happy to get that through the committee process and now hopefully onto the House floor.
I'm excited about that bill. I personally know people that will benefit from that. So that's a wonderful bill. Thank you for bringing that bill forward. And I'm happy that it made it out of committee.
Me too. It's been a long time coming. The last time that bill was updated was in 1996. And if a person's total gross household income exceeded $12,000, then they don't qualify. So that pretty much means no one qualifies, because even if you're only on Social Security, that's $1,800 a month, which would put you out of that range. Now, I would have liked to have gone higher to $35,000, $40,000 to offer more people relief. But as you know, in this extremely conservative legislature, you have to work with what you've got. And I was able to talk to committee chairs, and we agreed on the $25,000 limit with an agreement to come back and revisit it in the upcoming years. And so if we can help more people when it comes to their property tax relief, this is very low income people, I'll keep in mind, then I think that's a win-win for everyone.
Well, awesome. Well, congratulations on that. I've seen some other bills. Representative Alonso got a bill out of committee about healthy soil.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Shout out to Representative Alonso Sandoval. And so many House Democrats have done incredible work of putting in the initiative to get their bills heard in committee and then answer the questions and do all the hard work that we as Democrats have to put in if we're going to advance our bills. And thank you to House leadership, Cindy Munson, Leader Munson and her team, because they've been really on top of creating graphics for us to be able to put out and show our constituency that we don't only fight the bad bills, but we have really great legislation that, if only given the opportunity to vote on, typically passes and advances. And this is legislation, as you had alluded to earlier in a previous episode, you can always think of an individual who's going to benefit from the legislation that the House Democrats are putting out, because it actually has a purpose of improving everyone's lives in Oklahoma.
So I like that segue. So I have to talk about something negative, and I apologize for that. But from what I understand, there have been 2 unconstitutional bills that have been combined and presented again. And those are bills, surrounding abortion, very restrictive abortion bills. How do those keep making it out of committee?
This issue on abortion kind of was pretty quiet last session. We didn't hear a whole lot about it. We know that states around the country that have direct democracy in the form of ballot initiatives, 7 out of 7 states that put it on the state question, give it to the vote of the people to codify their rights to reproductive access, reproductive freedoms. Every one of those states have voted in the affirmative that they want to be in control of their personal health care decisions and not some heavy-handed legislature. And now that this has come back up in an election year. I don't know if the Republicans think this is a winning issue, but all polls indicate that people in Oklahoma, we're a populous state. They don't want the legislature dictating to them what they can and can't do, with especially on something as nuanced as abortions. We just heard from a woman who went in because she was bleeding. She's a mother, she's married, she has children. She knew something wasn't right. The doctor told her in his office that this isn't a viable pregnancy, and in order to save your life, we're going to have to give you an abortion. But in order to not be sued because of the state's extremely strict abortion laws, there's not much we can do. The doctor told this woman that his best advice was to go to the parking lot, and when she bleeds more, to come back into the hospital, and they can reassess to see if she's close enough to death to save her life. Now, close enough to death to save her life. How does that make any sense? And some people try to say this isn't a healthcare issue. This absolutely is a healthcare issue. Now, in this woman's case, she was able to go to Kansas and get a life-saving abortion, but all of the women across the state who this is affecting don't have the means to get up there or the time, and they're faced with these incredibly life or death situations. And so why Republicans continue to push this is only got to be driven by the more extreme right faction of the Republican Party in the House legislature and over in the Senate. And we'll see how it resonates with the public. But from what I'm hearing in my District 93, South Oklahoma City, and from around the state, they would prefer that the Republican Party go back to whatever they thought, the traditional values were of the Conservative Party 10, 20 years ago, whatever but it's not what it is turned into today, which is the party of intrusion, control, and power. And so people are pretty upset with it, and we'll see how it turns out on the ballot box. But anytime we have the ability to protect bodily autonomy and people's decisions and freedoms when it comes to their own health care, that's something the House Democratic Caucus is going to continue to stand for.
Well, I can listen to you defend a woman's right to make decisions, her healthcare decisions, all day. But really, my point was, it's already been determined to be unconstitutional. Why bring it up again? Why keep revisiting these unconstitutional bills that, if passed, are just going to be undone by the Oklahoma Supreme Court? That's my big frustration. It's a waste of time, particularly when we live in a state that's number 6 for child hunger, and we live in a state that has over 4,600 emergency certified teachers and questionable health care. Why are we revisiting issues? Why aren't we doing like you and Representative Provenzano and Representative Alonzo Sandoval and all the other Democrats of putting together bills that actually help Oklahomans? That bill is only going to serve to spend Oklahoma tax dollars to defend it.
And my answer to that would be 2 words: election year. Unfortunately, they think that in these more red districts, that is going to appeal, and possibly could. But I wish there was a better explanation other than the far right driving the train when it comes to these more extreme bills that we've been hearing so much of lately.
It's just so annoying. So what about the governor's, he made in his State of the State address, he said that he was going to push the legislature to approve a flat budget. And now teachers are coming out and saying that won't work for us.
Well, I mean, you would think a fiscally conservative governor would say we need to pay our bills first before we start, haphazardly giving dollars away, which would lead us directly back to where we were in 2016 with a $1.5 billion revenue failure. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. It's exactly where it's led other states, it's led Oklahoma, and it will lead us right back there. I just came from an elementary school in my district where I served some after school food to the teachers as an appreciation. And I had a chance to talk to quite a few of them. And I spoke to one gentleman who actually left Oklahoma to go teach in Texas. And the only reason he's back right now, because unfortunately his mother has leukemia, and he moved back here to be able to take care of her, but his house is still in Texas. And when he's finished, he's going to go back to Texas. But he's right now teaching music in Oklahoma City Public Schools. And he said, When I left Oklahoma and I went to Texas, I almost doubled my pay. And I said, well, what is the retention like when it comes to teachers in Texas compared to Oklahoma? He said, well, because of the environment and the salary, the retention is better. You've got more stability. And as a result, you have improved educational outcomes. This governor should not be giving away something. I would say, let's invest in our education first before we talk about tax cuts that benefit the rich, that disproportionately benefit the wealthy. And it's not only in education. We just read a great article in the Oklahoman today that talked about the billions of dollars needed to upgrade our infrastructure, from our dams and our roads and our bridges and our prisons around this state. We are not.
Our universities.
Yeah, the universities. There's some universities, junior colleges, great schools like NEO that can't even afford to heat their buildings because their infrastructure is so old. The last time it was upgraded was in the 1960s. And thank you to Matt Carter out of the Oklahoman for doing incredible investigative journalism on bringing these issues to light, because it absolutely needs to be brought up in debate, that you cannot go around and campaigning on tax cuts for the wealthy when you have bills that have yet to be paid and capital improvements for bridges, roads, dams, jails, universities around the state that need investment.
Well, I want to thank you for pointing out the hypocrisy. Republicans nationwide and even in our state, claim to be the fiscally responsible party, yet they're, like you said, they're proposing tax cuts while we have bills due, while we have expenses that we need to pay. And I'm going to bring back the children who, are going to need lunches and breakfasts in the summer that we've just decided not to have a plan for, and we're going to hope that charities take care of it. We have actual obligations as a state that we should deal with before we just start, like you said, giving out money to our top wealthiest folks in our state.
And including the corporations that we try to incentivize with $1 billion package. Now, when we say billions of dollars, people listening need to remember that those are our taxpayer dollars that they're using to incentivize to companies to move here. And even with $1 billion freebie, they're still turning us down because they look at other states and they say, how does this state compare to Oklahoma when it comes to our employees feeling comfortable in knowing that their kids and their spouses and their family will have every opportunity that they need to reach their full potential. And as a result, they're choosing to move to other states.
So I want to go around the mulberry bush on something, and you'll follow me. Tuesday night, we had a special election. We had the second special election in the last couple of months in our state. And both of those candidates outperformed the spread. They absolutely came way closer than the district is drawn. They did very well. They were both really qualified candidates that had a lot of support. I wonder how different that would have been if we had ranked choice voting. How different would the outcome have been if we had ranked choice voting and the conversations would have been different? What do you think?
Oh, without a doubt. Ranked choice voting is a better representation of the more popular candidate. It also creates ways for third-party candidates to have a viable pathway going forward. And I think it's important, and we have, as Democrats, acknowledged the increase in independents who are registering to vote. And we've acknowledged that by opening up our primaries to allow independents to vote in our primaries. Ranked choice voting is popular amongst people who want a more fair electoral process. It is not popular amongst people who want to retain power and keep the status quo and keep people from upsetting or dismantling their status quo in power when it comes to the Capitol. We just heard a bill on Monday in the Elections and Ethics Committee that I debated against. I only had 1 minute to debate, but I was able to lay out why it's a good thing, why people support ranked choice voting. Number one, from what I hear from people, is it decreases negative campaigning. When a candidate has to appeal to a broader electorate, they're going to spend more time talking about their ideas and solutions to our problems and less time attacking their opponents. One of the main reasons that the author of this bill gave to ban ranked choice voting across the state and also in municipalities, so taking away local control, he mentioned that our voting machines were outdated. I brought up the point that the last time that our voting machines in Oklahoma were replaced was in 2012. And when I asked Secretary Xerox when are they going to be replaced, they're due for an upgrade in the next 4 years. And by the way, every new voting machine that's being made right now that we will purchase in 4 to 8 years is going to be able to accommodate ranked choice voting. They're computer systems, they have to be upgraded. And so to say, oh, this is going to cost the state money because we need to buy new voting machines, we're going to have to do that regardless. Now, if you take that away and then you emphasize local control, it's pretty obvious why they want to ban ranked choice voting, and that's to maintain their status quo on the two-party system in which they dominate.
Absolutely. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about ranked choice voting because we don't talk about it enough. And if we're not, if folks like you aren't as vigilant and diligent as you have been, Oklahoma's going to look up. We're going to be the only state not doing ranked choice voting.
Yeah, we already are. I think only 4 states across the country have banned ranked choice voting, and those are the more extreme red ones. But to give a brief explanation of what ranked choice voting is and how it works is, let's say you have 4 candidates on the ballot: a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and Independent. Election day happens and no one breaks that simple majority threshold, which is 50% plus 1. Then the very last person is marked off, and whoever voted for that very last person, then their second preference then bumps up the other 3 candidates. And if still no one has broken that 50% plus 1 threshold, then the third person is eliminated, and their third choice or second choice then bumps up to the 1 and 2, and then you've got a winner. Now, this is important because it saves so much money, taxpayer money, because you don't have runoff elections. You've got your decided winner right then and there. There is the ability to do recounts. States have done this in recounts. Ranked choice voting isn't going to displace our current way of voting right now across the state. It's important to vote no on this bill because it gives local municipalities the option to implement it if they so desire. And we've seen in other states, once the municipalities have been able to do it and people then are able to see for themselves that this is a fair way of running elections. It's a more representative way. It decreases negative campaigning. And it's overall, you're going to have an overall more popular candidate win election who can represent the most people who find them favorable. Then it typically could be considered more for statewide. But to just ban it straight out, but because we don't have the technology, is like saying we shouldn't have high-speed internet because we don't have broadband laid all over the state. It makes no sense at all. And so what I was saying is, let's not ban it indefinitely. Let's wait for our new voting machines to come up. If local municipalities so choose to have their ranked choice voting in their local elections, then they are constitutionally able to do so. Ranked choice voting is 100% constitutional. But unfortunately, just like the GOP legislature, supermajority, banned local municipalities from raising their local minimum wage, and they're now trying to do that when it comes to how they conduct their election processes.
Now, I just want to be clear. You're saying that the small government party is overreaching and trying to control everything.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Who would have thought? The small government party who is fiscally responsible is trying to control everything and trying to just give away money rather than pay our bills.
Exactly.
Okay, I just want to be clear about that. I think the Oklahoma Republicans in Oklahoma legislature have forgotten what their party stands for, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it really is. People want to hear ideas and policies, and I direct them back to our House Democratic Caucus and our priorities. We've got the elimination of the grocery sales tax. We've got the expansion of the earned income tax credit, which is a proven way to help working Oklahomans save more money. We've got child care tax credits and subsidies. We've got things that are going to help everyday Oklahomans and not just the super rich or the wealthy donor class, but those who live in our neighborhoods who can't afford a lobbyist to go up and advocate on their personal interests each and every day. That's what we as representatives are elected to do. That's why we are mandated to live in our districts, so we can have a good pulse on our communities and know what what their struggles are and what they're going through. One of the ways I do that is every now and then from 5 to 7 a.m., I like to drive Uber in my district, and 100% of my rides that early in the morning are for my constituents, giving them rides to work. And I remind people that a lot of the people getting up early, going to work that I give Uber rides to, are getting to work because they don't have a vehicle. Many of them may be couch surfing. Sometimes I pick them up from motels. It's expensive to be poor in America, especially in Oklahoma. When you're working 40 hours a week at minimum wage and you're spending every day you're spending money on an Uber ride to and from work, you're spending money on a weekly hotel when you can, or you're couch surfing on a friend or family member's living room couch. People are having a hard time getting ahead even while working 40 hours a week. And when I drive Uber, of course, I just put my hat on. They don't know I'm a state rep, but sometimes they're talkative, sometimes they're not. But it's really interesting to listen to them and hear, the problems and issues that they've had if they choose to talk about it. But it really is enlightening and has given me a different perspective that I would have never had otherwise.
That's awesome. Representative Everyman. Thank you so very much for providing us with that update, Mickey. I look forward to Thursdays because you bring to us what's happening at the Capitol, and a lot of us need to know that. For the rest of you, thank you so very much for joining us, and I'll be back here tomorrow at 4:15.
Thank you for having me.